Welcome to Business Mentorship Keeping It Real. My name is Trish Tonai, founder and host for the series, where we feature entrepreneurs and enterprise leaders who participate in shareyourstories.online. And today, I have the co-founders of the FlowNetwork, Sara DeFelice and Tim Glover. And they're going to talk to us today about the whole idea of the FlowNetwork and how it came to be, as they're really ramping up a lot of really wonderful folks in their network. And they both join us from Burlington, Ontario. So welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us, Trish.
You know, I've been so interested in having you folks on the show because I know that you've been really ramping up a lot of really wonderful folks who follow you, not only on social, but participate in some of the events that you have for the Flow Network. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what the Flow Network is all about?
Shall I start?
I think that you should start, yes.
Well, Flow Network has been really a collective vision, dream between Tim and Sharon and myself that is really about wanting to raise consciousness on the planet through these times. And prior to these times, we're very visionary, and we could see that the world of business was really going to be needing change. And so Flow Network was birthed, and basically it's really about adopting how to be and create more flow in our life and in our business, and understand that, as many of the great teachers like Eckhart Tolle talk about, the power of now, the only moment is now. And now more than ever, when the world is kind of chaotic, and we were just talking before this live broadcast went on, that you're going to travel in the airport and the rules are constantly changing. And so how can we adapt to our ever-changing, sometimes chaotic environment? And flow is so key to understand and adopt in these times. So that's a quick overview of why we've created Flow Network.
Yep.
So tell me a little bit about the assets that you use, because, Sara, I know that your background is in sort of the videography and the multimedia sort of section, and Tim is in the sort of consulting and helping with the one-to-one sort of business coaching. But tell us some of the assets that you've been using to raise consciousness with an audience. How do folks actually do that?
It's a good question. And as you said, the powerful thing that we both have business backgrounds, but we both have energy sort of background. Tim has Zen Shiatsu, and
yes,
myself.
That's right. My little secret there.
Yes.
We're revealing secrets. I love it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And myself as a yoga, I'm a yoga instructor and studied holistic nutrition, and I work with quantum sound and color therapy, and really kind of out there things that are not so out there anymore. People are really looking for ways to be able to still their mind. And that is who we're being, is basically what Flow Network is all about, is really understanding that we have to start with who it is that we really are. Yeah,
who we are authentically. And so this is an extension of what my wife Sharon and myself have been doing for 25 years, helping businesses improve performance through changed behavior. And I just done a call with a large organization. So I do large organizations, medium organizations, individuals, and continue to do those types of things. And what I see, especially with COVID, is there's just people are going crazy. And as I was explaining it to the senior leadership team yesterday, is what we discovered a few years ago is we have this thing called a mirror neuron in the head, which enables us to feel everything around us about other people. And we oops that. This is what we call own other people's stuff. So we oops it. And so when we have a pandemic like what we currently have, where everyone's oopsing everyone, it's exceedingly hard to actually keep a business going, supply lines working properly, just even leading. Everything has to change, and it has to be a combination of more female and male. And it also has to accommodate the generation gap, which is millennial and boomer. So big reason we got together was to be able to go and close that gap and present something for a population that is not just men in business, or not just women in business, not just men looking for alternative orientations to business navigation, or in the case of women, it's about bringing that whole thing together. And that's what Flow Network really is about. It's an internal network effect that we're looking to actually lever, as opposed to the orientation that business has brought about for years around a yang, push, external network
Straight
effects,
line.
straight line.
Yeah.
Which
This is
all
flow.
to say it's all about our inner world.
Yes.
And starting with our heart, and when we're in fear and chaos, it's really easy to get out of our heart and into our head.
Right.
And when we're in our head, we get stuck.
Right.
And even, no matter what strategies we have placed in our business, no matter what our goals are, if we're stuck in our head and we're stuck into fear, and we all have unconscious bias, which what Tim spoke to is the power of our coming together and clearing, really putting that at the foundation of our business, is clearing our unconscious bias and the way that our beliefs block us from, really expanding and really becoming visible and really making big change out there in the world. It all starts
in here.
inside.
Internal, right. So, okay, so let's use me as a case study and say that, so I'm in a small business. I'm doing less than $1 million in sales. Before COVID, I was running along at Mach 2 with my hair on fire and everything was perfect. Now, all of a sudden, it's like grind to a halt. And I'm sitting around with my team going, so what we did before is not working anymore. And I, as the leader, have to provide some sort of direction to get us unstuck. So as the leader of my organization, what's one tip that you can give me to try to help my team navigate all this change and chaos?
You want to take that
I
one,
can,
Tim?
yeah, because this is a conversation I have every day. We were educated, and our generation was educated to use your head, always thinking through your issues. The challenge we have right now when we got so much chaos is you need to get out of your head, which is really easy to say. Get out of your head, get into your heart. So the way we actually we inform that is to say, move from what was a push strategy, so creating all kinds of goals and markers and plans and strategies that we're going to push, into something that is more like a pull strategy. And the heart is our major attractor. It's like a magnet. Right. And so the idea is if we're pushing constantly with our head, we're pushing away the things that we're attracting. We're not even paying attention to what we're attracting. And what we need to do in these times is move from a navigation that was head oriented and pushing to something that actually is pull, because we are attracting opportunities. And then we can move from pull to being pulled by our intuition.
And I'll say from my feminine perspective, that one thing that you can do is, because we're so accustomed to wanting to do something and I'm stuck, what can I do? We have to embrace the moment and not actually try to escape it. We have to be with it and be with, things aren't working. And, if you're as a leader, talk to your team and say, things are going to be different. Let's talk to one another. Let's sit around the board table and let's talk about what's really going on inside us. And, typically we need some sort of facilitator or somebody outside to see, even in our own realities. And this is why we have something called flow responders. We're creating PSAs for our community. Public service announcements. This is a typical reason or typical way we can get in our head, and here's how we can get into our heart and help each other reorient. We need that outside perspective. Even in our own individual life, it's easy for me to see what's happening in Tim's reality and kind of check him
and vice versa.
And vice versa. So I think the most important thing to realize about the changing of these times is we need one another. We need one another more than ever.
You're right.
We need to be able to be vulnerable. We need to have courage to have really tough conversations about what's going on in here, and understand that really impacts our life and our business.
For sure. I read an article recently on a thought leader who was talking about the fact that we've all been working remotely for a very long time. And so now that, the different stages of business opening up, one of the comments that she made was that she noticed with her team this whole idea of collaboration and brainstorming. And what she saw was, you can't replace that with the screen. We try, but it's really hard to get that emotion across the screen. So what she noticed in her office was those little, grabbing the coffee and going to somebody's desk and saying, hey, Tim and Sara, I've got this idea. What do you think about it? And just having those little mini brainstorm sessions is really a great way of opening up the topic of conversation. So, maybe that's something as a leader, speaking for myself and the folks that may be watching and listening to us, is that, if you just open the dialogue, I think to your point, Sara, right? Just giving people an opportunity to share is really very important. And it doesn't always have to be business, right?
No, it doesn't, because we don't fit in boxes. Like we're very holistic beings. And so every single thing is relatable, and the asking questions and the listening and really understanding that other is you. Yeah. We are all mirrors of one another. And a lot of times we can be stuck in our head and stuck in our own world, and we're not actually hearing what people are saying. And so being really, really present to what is this person saying? What are they not saying? What can I feel like emotionally through them? And how can I serve this moment? How can I serve this, my partner, my business partner, like wherever you are? How can I make them feel more relevant, make them feel more heard? And then understand there's a really beautiful exchange that happens in that place where more ideas are sparked. And I love what you said about, being more digital. It's really hard to feel that connection and that emotional connection. But how can we show up even in the digital world with cameras and before we did this live, we set the intention of I want to open my heart and just blast love through this stream. And, anybody who's watching this, they're meant to watch this. And can you feel that our hearts are connected and that, we're all here to grow together? And the world has made us more digital. We can look at it as a negative thing, like everything as a positive and negative. We can look at it from the positive side and say, well, we're able to connect globally. We're able to connect faster. And the degree to which we're staying open, sharing, being vulnerable, being real, we can actually make really beautiful connections through the digital space.
That's a really a wonderful point, because I know that we all understand the benefit of storytelling, because that's really how we learn from each other, right? I tell you a little story, you tell me a little story, and we make a connection somehow, and that's how the conversation continues. So you're absolutely right. The digital world is really great for connecting with folks internationally and opening up our own networking opportunities. But I think what's really important now, after all of the time that we've been, sort of exploring the digital world, is we can't forget that we still need that human connection, the sort of one-to-one opportunities and whether that's with friends or family or folks in our bubble, for those folks who are still seeing, restrictions for socializing and things of that nature. But this is a really wonderful platform, to your point, of being able to meet new people.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
So
the thing I would add is that there's an essence that we all have as a person to person, and being able to be close, you can feel like in communication, 80% of what it is we communicate is nonverbal.
Right.
And through digital, the idea is, and because we're doing this all the time, we're aware that what we're intending, how we're presenting, how we're being receptive. Are we being that way as if we were actually, you're sitting right here with us? Right. And that's the opportunity with digital, I believe.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
So I wanted to add one great quote from the documentary, The Social Dilemma. I love so much. She said, the more digital we get, I can't remember the woman's name, the more digital we get, the more ritual we need, which is all to say to be very intentful.
Yeah, that's very true. I think we pay a little bit closer attention to our physical being. You know what? Like the clothes that we wear, the colors that we choose when we know we're going to be live on digital. The way that the way we do our hair, the backgrounds that we have. All of those things have now become communication tools that we probably never really thought of before because it wasn't really so important. So and to that point, I love your background with this wonderful, the trees and the light and just giving it's really wonderful and bright and fresh. So thank you so much for sharing that.
I would have had that up a little bit more, but the sun was beating on our
it's
back.
like
exactly.
It's like
another thing,
pretty
right?
hot.
Right on the border.
So one of the things that we do in the Share Your Stories guest blog series is we ask folks to share 3 words of advice. And I'm going to ask both you and Tim to kind of combine your efforts, because your 3 words, Sara, were be with gratitude. And I think that the Flow Network really exemplifies what that means. So I'm going to let you sort of wrap up the information that you're sharing with our audience with what does be with gratitude mean to you and Tim?
Well, for me, and I can say Tim and I have very similar thoughts about this. So we like to say, be outrageously yourself. Just be who you are. Be in the moment. Be in the present. And be with gratitude. Gratitude is the highest frequency. It's the highest frequency. And we, as Tim mentioned earlier, we're magnets to what it is that we're embodying. You talked about, being. So when we can be with that gratitude, even when life is throwing us really challenging situations, we're grieving, or, we've lost something, or going through a really challenging time. When we can really anchor ourselves with the frequency of gratitude, we will be presented with, I like to say, miracles. We will be presented with opportunities. And, there's that saying, what we focus on expands. So the more we focus on gratitude, the more our life will present us things to be grateful for.
Yeah. And there's a miracle.
I love that word. I love the word that you've used, that there's miracles that are presented. And I think to sort of wrap up both of your intuitiveness is that it's really opening our eyes to the opportunities that may be right there in front of us that we haven't seen before or we didn't really notice before. So that's a really wonderful way to wrap up our conversation today. Beautiful. Is there anything else you want to add before we close, Tim?
Well, I just want to bring it full circle to what you said in the beginning about using the case study. So that's a perfect example when you're in a situation in a boardroom and our tendency is want to do. We have to fix this, we have to escape, we have to get out of this problem. If that whole room can go into the frequency of gratitude and then come together and understand this is our great opportunity to extend and go beyond what we thought was possible, and everybody can get on board with that, miracles will happen. And
this is why it's so important to be interdependent, because a lot of times you can't see it for yourself. You can't see the forest for the trees. So if you're introducing other people into the mix, or you have an understanding with the team that when we get into these situations, it's all our jobs and our roles to actually identify what we're grateful for, because that then gets us out of our reptilian brain and into our heart.
Yes.
That's a really wonderful way to end our conversation. I want to thank both of you for spending some time and not only giving us some insight into the Flow Network, but providing us with some really practical tools that we can probably try to use over the next course of days and weeks in our own personal life and business. So thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having us, Trish. And we invite people to Flow Network to see our public service announcements when you get stuck. For sure. And to our viewing and listening audience, I want to thank you for joining us today in this edition of Keeping It Real as we introduced you to the person behind the logo. So thank you so much, Tim and Sara, for joining us. And if you would like to share your story, please visit our website, shareyourstories.online. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.